bricks.
1868. We're 150 years old this year.
So it would have the same
They are not,
configuration of
You need to
which
sit down.
means
We're
that,
live.
we're gonna start?
Yep.
they're not regular bricks, which is kind of interesting, because it was while he's talking to me and he got all done, I said, but Steve,
Oh, that's the
don't
wrong
you
time on the
realize
clock
that
there.
the,
What is this stuff?
building's been there since 1886?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got that. That's it. So, okay. So the bricks aren't very good, but they've been there since 1886.
That's handouts.
Pardon?
That's handouts that I put out.
Apparently,
Oh, that's handouts you put out.
there's different kinds of bricks. I'm not a mason, I don't have a clue. But these are very, porous.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
Yeah, they're made from
Sandstone.
sand and stuff in it, so they're not very,
Yeah, they crumble.
yeah. That was what he said.
Yeah.
And I said, but it's been since 1886.
Hi.
Yeah. And I don't know.
He kept saying, he kept throwing that date at me. I said, yeah.
We'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mishler,
Present.
Putz,
Here.
Love,
Yo.
McKinney, Shield, Cullis.
Here. So we have 4 members. We have a quorum. I would like to make a motion that we excuse Mike McCanny.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Joe Mishler, second Richard Putz, to excuse Mike McCanny. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I did not hear from Ryan Shield, so
I didn't either.
I don't know. And it looks like we're at a 6-member board, which means we still have an opening. Is that correct? Okay. Approval of the agenda?
If I may, I'd like to add a couple things.
Okay.
The railroad depot and the waterworks building. And I don't know if that qualifies as old business or.
I would call those both old business. We've discussed them both here, so.
I'd like to talk about a home and garden tour and PR also.
Any objections on the railroad or
No.
the waterworks?
No.
And you wanted to add what?
Talk about a home tour and garden tour and public relations.
Okay, why don't we add that to the home awards?
Yeah, that's fine.
Anything else? Somebody want to make a motion to cover all that?
Oh, hold on for a second.
So moved.
No.
Go ahead.
Shouldn't there be something on here about the drive around town we were gonna take and all that stuff from about 3 or 4 months ago?
That's all set up.
I understand that, but shouldn't it be on the agenda?
Not necessarily, other than
Wouldn't have.
for
Well, let's talk about it. That's fine.
we can set the appointment, but if you'd like, we can add it just to go over it
Yeah,
quickly.
just make it official.
Well, it is official based on minutes from past meetings,
Right.
but we can still discuss it.
I understand that, but
Well, he wasn't here. He's a new member.
I understand, but I wanted it clear that it is official. It's a public meeting, it will be a quorum, it is official, it's part of the minutes, that's all I'm doing.
we got it.
Okay, so if somebody would like to make a motion with the amendments?
So moved.
Approve or second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the additions of the railroad, the waterworks, the HDC tour as old business, and adding tour and garden to the historic home awards. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from October 19th.
I have a correction.
Okay.
It said that we were asking the council to do all this. We weren't requesting it, we were stating that that was our position.
For the record, can you be specific what you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Okay, for the record, it wasn't, we didn't ask the village council. We were instructing them that that was our
Ask them to do what?
position. We're asking them to preserve the waterworks building.
Okay, but I'm saying you need to say that on the record.
Okay, that's
So you're wanting to change what?
from
Specific.
to ask to we should preserve that we instructed the village council to preserve and safeguard the waterworks.
Okay.
So you want to change asked to instructed?
I don't think we have. It's already,
Well, no, I understand what he's saying. We weren't asking, we were telling, basically. It was our statement that we felt it should be preserved. Any other additions or deletions? None appearing, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by John Love, support by Joe Mishler. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Wait a minute, I only got one aye.
Aye.
Richard?
opposed.
Okay, so motion carries 3-1. Our statement of purpose, we don't have an audience this evening, but for the sake of the viewers that may be at home, the mission of the Holly Historic District Commission is to safeguard the heritage of the village of Holly by preserving the historic districts in the village that reflect elements of the village's history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. The goal of the commission's work is to stabilize and improve property values in the historic districts and the surrounding areas, foster civic beauty, strengthen the local economy, and promote the use of the historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare of the citizens of Holly. Let the record show that Mr. McCanny has joined us. Public comment? That would only be those people at home. So we will go into old business. Let's start out with the railroad. Mr. Mishler.
I just want to point out that there's going to be an organizational meeting on January 29th at 7 o'clock over in the, I think it's called the community room across from the village offices,
Right.
across from the DDA. And the purpose of that is to bring together whatever groups and individuals are interested in doing something with the railroad depot and bring the group together and see if we can get organized and move the project along or reach some sort of conclusion. So it's at 7 o'clock over at the village community room or whatever that's called.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. The Waterworks building.
I just wanted to put that on there just so that it remains on our record officially so that it doesn't somehow slide off into the oblivion.
Well, it's on the council
Okay.
minutes, and it's also,
Just so
We
you know,
discussed-
just so you know, from a technical standpoint, we are, the council has, to use the attorney's word, has forestalled the demolition of the Waterworks building until June 1st.
right.
And they're, Bob Hoffman and myself are working, Bob's more on the physical side of the restoration of the building, and I'm working more on the programming side as we put that together going forward. Was there anything else?
And it's also being discussed in the design committee that was just set up. to-
Oh, through the DDA?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same way with the waterworks building. It's in a discussion.
You mean the railroad?
To the railroad too.
Okay.
The depot.
So
Was there anything else? Okay, and then the HDC tour. Chief McGee, if you could give us the time and date?
Okay, it will be a week from this Sunday, January 28th at 1 o'clock. We're going to meet right here. And Holly Woodlands has been generous enough to donate their bus because our smart bus is broken. So we can all ride in one vehicle, it sounds like, if everything goes the way I'm hoping. Excuse me. We have, so far we have 6 people signed up. And one of them is Mr. Ron Campbell from Oakland County. And Mr. Cullis had brought that to my attention, and he and Mr. Campbell and I have been going back and forth on emails, and he plans on being here at 1 o'clock.
Okay, Ellen Thackeray will be with us?
Ellen will be here, yes.
Okay.
You could add my name to the list, please.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what that tour is about.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, when the weather was better, I had walked around a couple of those districts myself and made notes as I walked around. And when I returned from my walk, I would make notes about each of those areas, especially the area over Sherwood Court, that whole region, North Street.
Okay. Anything else on the tour?
Do we have a route or?
Well, I'm not sure. The way we did it last time was we kind of hit the perimeter, and then we expanded or contracted based on what we found. And so I think Ellen has a plan for that.
Yeah, what we have asked Ellen to do, the committee created this proposed district. You'll see there's a couple of yellow areas there, which were, I guess, could go either way. So they marked those down as well. Before we take the finalized district before the village council with a recommendation, we felt that it was important. Ellen Thackeray is part of the Michigan Historic Preservation Group out of Lansing. We felt that it was important to have her come out and give kind of a final approval that, you know, she agrees or disagrees. Part of the whole purpose of this is to bring the historic district within compliance of both the state of Michigan and the Secretary of the Interior in the way that it is supposed to be created. So that tour Sunday will help us finalize those things.
She also is going to give you kind of an agenda of how you should move forward with this. And she suggests more than one public hearing because not everybody's going to love this idea.
Right. Well, and we've got to work on educating the public. One of the things that is going to help is Senate Bill 469 has passed in the House. This is the restoration of the historic district credits for historic restoration. So that's a good thing going forward as well. And we're going to need to let the public know. We're going to need to inform the public of the benefits of a historic district. And at the same time, there's a lot of miscommunication out there as to what is within the parameters of our ability to protect. We don't have say on things like color. We have nothing to say on interiors. We have nothing. So it's not as encompassing as a lot of people fear. And that'll be a job that we will have to work on going forward. Okay.
One other thing, there's some streets that are on here where one side of the street and not the other side. It really should have both sides of the streets. So
well, and that's something we will do in the tour, and Ellen will be able to tell you where we fall on it. There are other homes that people need to understand that are within that district that don't fall under the rulings of the Secretary of Interior. They're considered to be non-conforming, and there are exemptions for those as well. So we'll talk about all of that on Sunday. Let us now move into
are we going to have maps there, or what are we going to do? Just take this, or
we'll have everybody will have a map so you can draw
right on it. Okay.
Yeah, we want, and I'll make sure we have pads and coffee and good things too.
I
So.
don't want to mark up my map.
No, you shouldn't.
All right.
All right, we'll move on to general business. This is a discussion regarding a budget proposal that we want to send forward to the village council. They're getting ready to go into budget talks for the next year, and we've had several comments over the past year about historic home awards, some historic signage and lighting for the historic district. So we may want to move forward on that with those historic home awards. You mentioned a tour or garden tours or that kind of a thing. Did you want to expound on that, John?
Yeah, I have a handout here, which I gave everybody. Two things. Number one is this signage. Right now, they've got this Corbin and Maple sign that's been there for years for Quail Run. I want to replace that with a Victorian Village sign saying it's a historic district and information. You could take information out of a box. But I want to have this is not how the sign would look, but this is the concept of it. And this is the location. And I've talked to a sign company that makes art signs that are top-notch, and I don't want to waste their time or my time if we don't want to pursue this and see what kind of thing we can come up with that would be welcome to the community. And that's a great location for it because it's there and it's on the main street, so you don't have to do any fancy footwork to get a site. You have the site right here. And then put some flowers and bushes and landscape it up so it looks like you're coming into a nice town. And that would just be on that Corbin location. You can start seeing the Victorian homes just past here. So that's
Isn't
what.
that Quail Run, isn't that just right up the street here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you're not talking on the main drag of town here.
This
Maple
is
Street.
on the main drag. This sign.
There is one.
That's
sign.
on
is
Maple.
there is
That's
there?
Maple Street.
Oh, okay. I see where it is. All right.
It's
Right by the dome
east
house.
of the school.
Yeah.
It's right across. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember it
The
now.
only comment I would make is I'm not in favor of saying Victorian
No.
because there are a lot of the homes that are not Victorian.
Well, it's
Victorian is an architecture.
it's an
and-
era also.
I know, but
Well, it's an era. That's the
okay,
point.
if you let me finish,
I will.
it is an era. However, many of the homes on Maple Street were built before that era. My house, as an example, is 1868. There's Italianate across the street. So all I'm saying is I don't have an issue with historic district. It's just not to be labeled as a Victorian district. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. The reason why I chose that because it went well with village, and it's something that's in the mindset of people. They don't know this fine differentiation in eras. The homes that are older moved into the Victorian era, even though they weren't constructed in that time frame. So it's a era that has great elegance associated with it. So anyway, that's what
Right.
my 2 cents. We can work more on the signage, but at the site, if we can do something.
Well, the idea here was to discuss more about budget.
Well,
than
we
it
need a
was
budget
anything.
for a sign too. So.
Okay, so here's the issue. If we're gonna put forth a budget, we're gonna have to do some homework on it. If we're gonna look at signage for the area, if we're gonna look at lighting for the area, if we're gonna look at an awards program, then we need to determine what those awards might be, and then we have to come up with a cost of what those awards would be, and we have to lump that together so that we go to the village council with our recommendation and a dollar number, and when we have that dollar number, we have something to back it up.
Well, I have a dollar number too. $2,000.
And that's based on, do you have the information to
No,
back
that's
that?
just approximate on the signs, discussing it with them. If you don't spend it, you don't have to spend it, but that would be the limit on doing it. The other side is this awards, and I have listed here candidates for awards and houses and what was done on them. So that would be the other aspect of this. And I'm not planning on giving them a big trophy with
No, I understand.
bronze and gold, but just a
Well, it
nice
should be
formatted
probably
letter
bronze
and
at
some
least, that's-
recommended.
It's gonna hang up in their house, we should make it,
We'll have it
Like-
nice.
yeah, really nice, so they can hang it
Well, the
in front of
question
the
I
house.
have, is this for inside or outside? Are you gonna be able to put the award on the outside of your house so everybody can see it, or is there gonna be something on the inside? Or is it going to be a little of each? They
I
get
don't
something
know.
put on the outside, then they have something for their own
Well, that's a good,
personal
yeah.
record.
It should be a outside designation.
Well, you don't want to
Just give
get
them
it
those
too, you don't want to
big
get too
spotlights.
cluttered up,
Put a
though. I
big
mean,
spotlight in their front yard for a year. No. No?
Well, I was thinking,
That
when
was
they
just an
used to
idea.
do the, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, you'd be driving out in the country and you'd see a sign that would say historic farm, or not, maybe not historic farm. Farm would be over 100 years old, or centennial farm, okay. That's what they would say, and they would have a sign in the front yard that said Centennial Farm.
well, my thought is you're going to get it too complicated, it's going to get too cluttery. But
Well, I was
at
just
least
asking
start
whether or
doing
not-
something, and we can tune it as we go along.
All I was asking was whether or not you're gonna put something on the outside of the house and then give them something so they have for their own
Yeah.
personal record.
My thought was to start out by giving them something,
Well, actually.
whatever it is.
Fruit basket
Actually,
or
it's
something.
up to the owners of the property to decide.
Yeah, but I don't want to get it too cluttered up.
There should be a form that
You know, here, this was,
allows that they accepted the.
Might be nice to have a sign that could be in their front yard for a year,
that's
and then it
a good
moves, you know,
idea.
moves around the village as each house wins, or, you know,
That's
that
a,
might be kind of nice. And
I
then
like that
They should
idea.
have a little plaque on the inside of the house, like in George's house. He's got a nice Lincoln plaque, like right as soon as you enter. It says, you know, this house won Historic District of the Year in 2017.
Well, we can, I guess, talk to them. Anyway, here's the,
Well, how many awards are we gonna give? That's another question. Is it like,
well, here's my list for
I got
starters.
your list. You got 5 different families here, and you wanna give 5 different families, I don't have a problem with that. But that's my question, is are you
I
gonna
got
do
4
one?
families and 5 sites.
Well, are you gonna do one site, or are you gonna do 5 sites?
All of these people would receive an award of some sort,
All at once?
all at once. It's kickoff for 2017.
So, 2008, so what you're saying though, if I'm understanding you, is you're saying the awards would differ every year based on how many people actually complete restoration of
Right.
a home
Yes.
and do work? So one year you might have, as you're saying, 5, another year you might only have 1.
Oh, that's an idea.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
I mean,
It's-
I'm hearing
yeah.
a couple of different ideas. Mr. McCanny said that his idea was every year somebody gets kind of
Yeah.
the sign in their yard for historical preservation.
Well, these houses right here have made a great improvement in the quality of the houses in town. You know, College is the Barnum and Bailey type house.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I
you know.
understand. Cortez did a wonderful job on improving their house as well over the past, it was about a 2-year project. They did the restoration. That's on the corner of Maple and College Street. That was quite a
Yeah.
nice
Well,
That's
job that
amazing,
was done
yeah.
on there.
It's
I'm
nice.
sorry?
That was a nice restoration.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
Well,
not
we-
restoration, but change.
Well, it was a restoration. We brought back
Well, yes.
all the lines on the porch. We brought back the lines on the windows. They brought back, they actually uncovered the triangle leaded glass window up in the corner of the house.
well, put them on the list.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
but
nice
I'm just,
sign.
so I'm just saying,
What-
there are a
what's
lot of
that
people who
address?
work like that.
don't you think we should post all this into our tour?
Well, I think if we're talking about this at this stage, we've got to do some homework when we put our budget together.
Right.
We don't just go to them and say, we want $2,000. I think we have to have something to back it up, some paper. So if somebody is willing to go forward and say, here's what the cost of the plaques would be, and as Mr. Love said, if that reports that, you know, some years are going to be 1 or 2, some years are going to be 5, but if the money's budgeted, what isn't used goes back into the system. Many of the departments within the village operate that way. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think if you're willing to take that part of it on to do the pricing and
I
actually,
just, yeah, but I don't, as I said, I don't want to do it if you aren't supportive of doing this.
Well, that's why we're
That's the-
talking about
that's-
it here.
that's what I'm
But that's what
saying.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you're willing to take that on, to
I'll set it up.
to come up with the numbers for the pricing. That doesn't mean you go out and buy the plaques and do that. It's just a matter of.
I'm not buying plaques
Okay.
without
Um,
the support of the
You wanna make
community.
You want to make that a motion?
Well,
Yes, that's what I want to
before-
do. Anyway,
Before we get into a motion, to touch base with Mr. Putz said, the second part of it, B, historic signage and lighting, he says perhaps we need to hold off on that until we get the actual distinction of the district.
Right, and we're working
Where
on
it's
that
gonna
in
be.
the design committee for the,
But I think for the budget, for 2018-19's budget, we could certainly move forward on a budget request for plaques and awards and that kind of a thing.
well, the sign site is the best site to put it on because it's one that's available. There's already a sign on there for a real estate development. So, you know, it doesn't have to be right at the corner of what the district is. It's a entry into the community. And starting with this location, then we can look at some other locations beyond that. But it's a place to start with that's available without any complications. So it's an easy
I-
place to start.
I think so that we don't get the cart before the horse.
Card sign.
John, I think so that we don't get the sign, before we get the cart before the horse, let's work on getting the budget numbers together to submit to the council, and let's see the council approve the budget allotment. Once we have the allotment, then we can work on the sign and placement.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to say.
well, what I'm saying is, why don't we just start by making a recommendation that we have this, and we'll come up with, you know, even start with $500, and then we can expand it from there. But at least get the recognition that we're going to do this. And $500 just to start with isn't
Okay, but
isn't
again,
unreasonable.
we need the homework, we need
Well,
the cost estimates
I
for the sign,
understand.
for the plaques.
We're not going to launch the rocket tonight.
Well, I have a couple of questions about this. First off, you're all talking about Maple Street entrance. Now, looking at this map and looking at the historic district, I
John
see.
mentioned that there would be other.
Well, I haven't heard that. I've heard one site where it's
Well,
not
that's a start
complicated
site.
thing.
That's to start it off.
Okay, well, but you've got several other entry points. Hard to see upside down, but several other entry points where you into the village where you could put signs too. So it isn't just for coming down Maple Street. So
It's
we
to
aren't
start
looking-
with.
We aren't looking at one sign. I
We're
think we're
looking at
looking
one
multiple
sign to start with, and then decide what to do and test its effectiveness,
Now, the
and
only-
look for other sites.
The only other issue I have with that is that Maple Street, in my opinion, is really inundated with signs.
right.
Starting,
You're right.
Starting right out about
Yeah, they got 50. You know,
going straight through just on one side. It seems like every 5 or 10 yards.
we could
maybe
clean all those up.
There's signs out there, and I know there are signs for organizations that don't exist anymore. And I'm just wondering, we're going to throw another sign into the mix.
No, we should clean the whole street up.
I don't know if that's not a.
Well, that's not what we're here for in the historic district. I think what's important, if we're going to go, if you look at the agenda, it says discussion regarding 2018 and 19 budget. If we're going to put a proposal into the council for money budgeted for the Historic District Commission to implement programming by giving awards for restoration, then I think we need to do the homework there to submit the budget request. On the historic signage and lighting, we've got to have a budget before we go toward that. And as Mr. Mishler said and Mr. Putz has said, in order for us to look at that program, first of all, we need to determine exactly what the historic district is. That's going to take us some time. And the second thing is, once that's determined, then we have to work on location. I think that's probably a year out based on what Alan Thackeray is going to tell us we need to do next in regards to this programming. But I think the awards portion can be something that we could submit for 2018 and 19.
Oh,
I got one thing, our design committee, Katie's gonna apply for the CLG designation.
Would you care to tell us what that is?
Well, I don't know, I just got it written down in notes, we haven't discussed it yet until our next meeting.
Okay.
What's CLG?
That's what I was asking, and I don't know.
It's a certified
Something or other.
government. Isn't certain. Yeah, it's a. I can't think of the third middle word.
All right,
It's
what
a
I would
certified
suggest we do is Katie Hughes is the Assistant Village Manager and DDA Director.
Right.
I might recommend that we ask her to come to our next meeting and explain what a GLC
CLG
is.
is a Certified Local Government Program.
Local. That's okay. Okay. And it's a really good deal because then it helps you get federal grants
According to
and
Google.
other grant kind of opportunities that you might not get normally. It's actually a really good thing for the community. So
Nice.
All right,
Good.
let's get back to the question at hand, and that's the Historic District Awards Program and the request for budget allocation to implement that. The chair would entertain a motion that we put together the numbers with the intent to request budget funding from the village council for the year 2018-19 for the purpose of Historic District Home Awards.
All right, I support that.
Okay, so Mr. Love has made, I made the motion, and that's the second. Is there any further discussion? None appearing?
Well, I just wondered, how many more, we gonna have other people come up with names, or what are we gonna do on this?
that I have a question on that, but while we're at this.
Let's get this taken care of now. This is on the budget request. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I have, I guess, a question about these awards. I think it's a wonderful idea, don't get me wrong, and I'm really glad to see this list put together by Mr. Love. But my concern is, I know they're historic homes, I know they've been preserved, all that kind of stuff. Do we have a specific criteria? It would seem to me that we should establish some kind of criteria, like I don't know, it should, that the house should reach certain things.
I think that can be done as we go forward.
It's-
I think at this point, we're strictly working on numbers, working on the specific language for the contest, if you would, or for the purpose of handing out awards, can certainly be done. Chief McGee?
I might suggest that we ask Ellen, I bet you she has done this in other communities and could have some
Yeah,
criteria.
I'm sure we're not reinventing the wheel
I'm
here.
sure we're not.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we can take some of
these
that.
were major renovations that, when you look at them, there's no question that they are meritorious.
Oh.
It's not like putting a wing on the building or build a garage.
The purpose for tonight's meeting was to put forth,
Start the ball.
start the ball, and I think we've done that with the budget request.
Can I just respond to that?
Sure.
My concern in having a set criteria is in knowing how people are. Someone who doesn't get it might just come into a meeting and say, hey, you gave them an award. Why? And you're going to say, because I drove by it and I liked the way it looked. Or, oh, wait a minute. We have this list. There's 5, 6 criteria. And they met this criteria.
No, I
Major,
agree.
major,
Yeah,
major
I could take a
renovation.
meeting, yeah.
That would be the word. These people that did these didn't just, do a paint job or.
Well, I understand
fix
that.
All right, I'll put major renovation.
Well, we can work on that
Whatever.
in the future.
It might not
No,
have
well-
to be a major reservation.
Well,
I think Chief McGee's suggestion is good.
Yeah.
I think
Find
there's
out a
probably
successful program that.
there's a historic district in Farmington, there's one in Ann Arbor, there's one in Marshall. I'm sure there are several others through the state. Those are the ones that come to my mind the fastest.
Find the one
And
that
I'm sure
help.
they've already got programs, and we can take from those programs and develop our own.
You find the best one that help bring the community together and get excitement about the historic district, and let's run with that one.
Yep.
Well, anyway, here's 4 people.
Okay, and we've got those names. We'll keep them with us. Are there any other staff comments at this time? We've had commission comments.
My only other is just so I make sure I have the right size bus. The people I've signed up so far for our Sunday, January 28th outing are Ellen Thackeray, Mallory Bauer, Mr. Putz, Mr. Love, Ron Campbell, myself, Mr. Mishler, and Barb.
And Mike McCanny.
Okay?
What, you threw one name in there that was a curveball. Who was
Mallory Bauer, I'm not sure who that is.
She was,
Is she with Ellen?
she's with Ellen, she's training and Ellen was gonna bring her.
that? Okay, that was a name I hadn't heard before, so I wasn't sure where
Did he
that
say
came
your
from.
name?
I think he said mine.
I
don't
did
think
not.
so.
Are
Oh.
you in?
Oh yeah, I've been in from the start.
It was your idea, so I thought you would be,
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure I had
That's
everybody.
why I asked.
Yeah.
So we have how many numbers?
Well, that's why I called you to add Ron Campbell to that.
We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of us
Oh,
with Barb.
nice.
Okay. I'm trying to figure, who did we lose?
Julie Hiveman.
That's who we lost. Okay.
So
I
Mr.
just knew there was somebody missing. I couldn't figure out who it was.
May want to add
And
Mr.
do you know
Shield
if the
to that.
village president is working on filling that position?
Um, the village manager and I have talked about your suggestion for.
Well, Ron Campbell would be an ex officio because he's not a resident.
Okay,
That would be a good one. But
yeah, so.
I would really like to see us look to the community, some of these new homeowners in the historic district. I think that would be wonderful to get somebody on the commission as we move forward.
Should I, you want me to bring that up or are you going to?
I think we just did.
No, he-
Well done, okay.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else to come before the commission
Well,
tonight?
where are we on the signs? We all set on that?
On-
We talked about the awards. We didn't have a motion on the signs, did we?
No, there was no motion on the signs. I think between the comments that Commissioner Putz and Mishler made and myself, I think we're at a point where we need to wait on the signs until we get the district outline before we can start deciding where those are going to fall.
Okay, I think what I'd like to do is at least propose one sign for this location and pursue something for that. We don't have to wait until this whole district deal has come
Okay,
on.
well,
I
you
don't want to put, I'm not proposing that we put signs all over the town for entering the district, just one sign
The
at
way
this
the way the
location.
commission works, Mr. Love,
Uh-huh.
you have a right to make a motion.
Okay, I understand that. That's my motion is we have, look at having one sign to replace this Quail Run sign with some appropriate bushes and flowers and landscaping at an entry point on Maple Street. That's my motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I will second it for the sake of discussion.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that we move forward on the placement of the sign on East Maple Street at the Quail Run location. I think it's called Quail Run?
Right.
Quail Run location.
And
Now, discussion.
my
Does anybody
comment
know
would
if it's
be,
private property?
That's what I was gonna say.
No, it's not. It's owned by the village.
Nice.
It's on village property, or this whole thing is.
isn't there a big,
There's a pumping
I
station
was just going to say, right? on-
behind this fence at that location.
I'm going to state what I stated a few minutes ago. And I agree with the chairman. I think it would be far better to have the entire district mapped out and approved before we go sticking signs someplace. If you stick it in one place, that doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'm not against having a sign there. I'm against having a sign until the entire district has been remapped and reformed and approved. But I'm not against the sign, but I'm against doing it now.
Next week?
Any other discussion?
Next week?
Is there any other discussion?
Well, we don't have signs even coming into the village in different places. You don't have to cover the whole area with these signs.
That's under discussion, it's
So,
putting signs along by 75 and so forth, directing that this is a historic village.
yeah, but this is, you know, you,
Duplicating signs by putting them in at the village limits.
You know,
That's not
I
the-
will say this, I think the one thing that's important for this commission to understand as we move forward, we're gonna be in the public eye, the public's gonna be looking at this, and they have every right to scrutinize the plan going forward. And I think it's very important that this commission comes across as though we have our ducks in a row, as though we know what we're talking about, and as that there's an organized plan for a purpose. And that purpose is not only to protect the historic value of the business, but to protect property values and to put this community in the best light possible going forward. So I think it's important that we remember that as we go forward.
that's what I like to see too. And I think to put us in the best light is not to have a Quail Run sign at the entryway to the community, because this is an inappropriate location for something like that.
That Quail Run sign there designates a subdivision back in the village.
It's on public property. It's not
All right,
appropriate. You can't advertise, you can't put a sign for sale down the street. You have to have it on your property. But if you like it there, fine.
all right. Is there any other discussion? Can we have a roll call vote on this, please?
McHaney?
What was the motion?
Okay.
We discussed around it. Now you got me all confused.
All right, there is a motion to replace the Quail Run sign with a historic district sign on East Maple Street as you enter the village
Oh,
from this side.
no, not yet.
Butts?
No.
Mishler?
No.
Love?
Yes.
Cullen?
No. Motion fails 4-1. Staff, do we have any more comments for the evening?
No, sir.
None appearing, then I will move to close the meeting at 7:46.
How'd I do?
The lights automatically dim when the meeting goes on?
Did they?
Yeah, they start dimming the meeting second after